Alright guys, we finally have some news to talk about. I kind of waited a while to do, these are my favorite videos to do, but I kind of waited a while to accumulate some notable news, and we got a bunch of awesome topics to talk about today, and I think we'll start with the most obvious one, and we've talked about it, and I called this before before the free agency period started. I was calling for this to happen, and we really mishandled the situation, and that is Jermon Bushrod. The whole Jermon Bushrod situation was totally mishandled. He's 32. This is a report coming straight. This is a source coming straight from the Dolphins organization that they do not believe Jermon Bushrod is a starter in the guard at the guard position. Now they just don't believe. At the age of 32, they just don't believe he's a quality NFL starter anymore. And we talked about this before the season. Before free agent period started. I don't know how many videos I made on to replace Jermon Bushrod with somebody, because the free agency markets for guards were so deep. You had Chance Warmack, T.J. Lang, Zach Zeitler, who's a little bit more expensive. The list goes on and on. You can name a lot of Ronald Leary. I mean, there is a ton of guards, and we kind of mishandled. We really mishandled the situation to the point of where now we have to figure out what we're going to do to fill Jermon Bushrod's spot. It's really ridiculous. Ted Larson obviously is going to replace the left guard position where Laramie used to be, but it's absolutely ridiculous that we didn't get this crap and figured out before the season on what our plans. Obviously, we didn't know if we were going to fully go after any kind of guard, because we could have got two guards and we didn't. It is what it is. To be honest with you guys, we spent how much money? I mean, I love extending, Kenny. All the extensions with all the players, that was the most important thing to me. We overspent for Andre Branch. And then the whole is what it is, I guess. But it really makes me upset that, for one, if you watch tape on Jermon, even in his good games, he had bad plays. Like, he was by far the weakest link on the offensive line. And we talked about this, and Dolphins fans, I feel the same way. I'm a huge obviously. I feel that way, and I know a lot of you guys feel that way. And it's kind of ridiculous that we didn't have a plan going into free agency. Now that we get this news that we do not view Jermon as a starter in the NFL, and he apparently, if we can't find anybody else, he will be the fallback solution. And he's still not signed, so if you guys are wondering about that. But it's just a little ridiculous. I think to predict what we're gonna do to fix this just terrible situation that we're in right now. And before I say this, I do want to say this. It is true that you can hide a bad guard. Is it good to have one on your offensive line? No, especially the offense that were successful with last season, which is a power football team. We need two really good guards, and especially the depth on the offensive line in the past has really hurt us. So to even add depth there would have been nice. The whole offensive line situation was really mishandled, and it makes me kind of worried. Like, by far the weakest link on this offense, which I think is way more talented in terms of scoring touchdowns than last season, but pass protection, I really thought the depth of the offensive line needed to be improved, and underratedly, we did improve it with Anthony Steen, who's a versatile offensive lineman. He can play center, both guard positions, and he's probably, from what I saw from Anthony, obviously most of his starts with center. I like him I wouldn't mind him at the guard position. I thought he did a fine job. Obviously, Craig Ubert came in at one point and did fine, but he's a little older. But I like Anthony Steen. So I would like him more than Jermon Bushrod. But it is just the whole just ridiculous situation that I thought we could have handled a little bit better and a little bit more decisive on what our plan would have been to even add depth there. We did obviously re-sign Sam Young, which is he had a couple good games. Like, when the Rams game, he had a really good game filling in for, I think it was, if I can remember, it wasn't Laramie, was it? No, it was, obviously he was playing guard. It was for Brandon. Obviously it was for Brandon, yeah. So he had a great game against the Rams. He played tackle, did a really good job on one of the best, edge rushers in Robert Quinn. But we did do that. So it is a little, I see a lot of people criticizing us for that, but we did find some depth there with Sam Young and Anthony Steen. So there is depth there. But, I don't know. I think we could have added a little bit more depth and maybe a better quality offensive starter at that guard position. That's all I have to say about that. But it's just a little disconcerting, and it does make me concerned because last season, that Titans game that we lost, and I know I keep staying on the subject, but I have to. The Titans game that we lost was a huge reason. Obviously, the only reason in my mind we lost that game was because of our offensive line. And there was a lot of games over the last 6 years that Tannehill's been our starter, except his rookie year, where our offensive line has been crapping terrible. And you can't argue that. I mean, he's been the most sacked quarterback since he got into the league. I think Blake Bortles now tops him for the last 2 or 3 years. But since he's gotten the league, he's been the most sacked. I think it's him, Russell Wilson. Blake Bortles is up there now. But it is ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. It's about time we fix this. I'm sick and tired of talking about the offensive line. Anyway, so let's move on. This is very important to the future of the Dolphins, and that's Koa Misi. Listen, Koa Misi is constantly getting hurt, and the reason he, in my opinion, is constantly getting hurt is because of the situation with his position. Ever since he got in the league, if you guys remember, in 2010 when we drafted him, if you guys remember this is a long time ago, obviously. It's like, what, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that? This is a long time ago. But when Koa Misi came out, he was an edge rusher. He was a pass rusher. That's what he did the best. You know what I mean? I mean, his first season in the league, he had 4.5 sacks, I think. Maybe it was even more than that. I can't remember. I'll have it up on the screen. But he's a pass rusher. Koa Misi is a pass rusher. I feel like he's an edge rusher. I think he's a classic outside linebacker edge rusher. We tried to move him into middle linebacker. That didn't work. I mean, it really didn't work. He could not stay healthy. Obviously, he sustained a neck injury. But the news is that Koa Misi, we're gonna if we don't get his salary reduced or he doesn't accept that, then we're going to release him at the age of 30. Obviously, he sustained a very serious neck injury. And I didn't think. I mean, I thought he was going to retire, but you know, he's been unhealthy for most of his career. And I think him as an edge rusher, a situational pass rusher, actually would be amazing for this football team. Standing him up and rushing, or even he's put his hand in the dirt before and been a very effective pass rusher. So, Koa Misi, I think he can beef up back to maybe. I think he's a little underweight for that right now, but for sure he can get back to when he was more of a rookie body type. But I think he could be a very, very good pass rusher, a situational pass rusher. Maybe, get his salary, because I don't want him on the football team anymore if his contract isn't fixed, because his contract's terrible right now. We're paying him too much money for him to do nothing on the football team. But if we can get his salary reduced, then I think he can be a very effective pass rusher, situational pass rusher on third down. I think we could sub him in on third down, and he can get after the quarterback. And on the edge, he does not need to be anywhere near the middle of the field. He needs to be on the outside, either playing outside linebacker, or we can put his hand in the dirt, or stand him up and rush him like a Von Miller, or like same thing we did with Olivier Vernon on third down. We just stood him up and rushed him. And we could do the same thing with Koa Misi, I feel like. And yeah, I think he's a good situational pass rusher on third down. I think it adds depth at the defensive line and the front seven or the outside linebacker position. And I think he's still a quality linebacker, and we can reduce his snaps, I feel like, and he can go out there and get us 5 to 7 sacks a year. And I think that's amazing. I think that would be amazing if he came back on a reduced salary. I think that would be a good idea. I hope that's what happens. We'll see. We'll see on that one. Moving on from that, which is another situation that I hope we figure out, at least with some kind of grace and decisiveness. But going on to the next piece of news is actually really interesting, and this is another controversial topic. The Dontari Poe situation. Poe, I'm gonna call him Poe because I never can say his name right. But Poe, it is interesting because Poe is a physically dominant defensive tackle, and I know a lot of people bring up the argument, well, why would you want to sign somebody? And I don't think anybody knows the market for Poe. I said this last time I talked about him. There's reports that he wants a long-term deal. There's reports that he wants a one-year prove-it deal, and if he wants a one-year prove-it deal and he wants to come in for cheap, I don't see the problem with that. This guy's a 2-time Pro Bowler defensive tackle. I don't even need him to be an effective pass rusher. I just need him to be what he is. It's a space eater. And a physical, dominant defensive tackle. That's what this defense needs to stop the run. I think he'd be I think if we can get him in on a one-year deal and it's cheap, and like again, just to make sure everybody understands is I understand the money situation, and I understand I do not want to pay Dontari Poe a long-term deal at all. But if we can get him in on a one-year deal, that would be great. So getting back to the news aspect of this, and we'll get into more Poe here in just a second, but he met with us for 9 hours. 9 hours he met with us, which is interesting. I mean, that's almost a full day of work. So well, who knows what's gonna happen with him? If he, like I said, if he can come in with a one-year deal, I think dude, our front seven would be so amazing. And I know a lot of people say with the money situation. Again, if he comes in on a one-year prove-it deal, and again, I want to bring up this other thing really fast. I'm getting so far ahead of myself, but a lot of people bring up the argument that Pro Football Focus, he's like ranked in the 30s or something like that in terms of stopping the run. And I listen, Pro Football Focus, it's really hard to get into the top 10 of anything over there. But some of their rankings are a little weird. And what I mean by that, I know their rating system it's tough to get into the top 10, like I just said, but the rating system is weird because the eye test is totally different. Like Mike Pouncey, I think, is ranked in the 30s of centers in the NFL, which is ridiculous because there's not 30 better centers than Mike Pouncey. I think any NFL coach would say that to you. If Mike Pouncey isn't at least a top 10 center in the NFL, then there's something wrong. That doesn't make any sense, right? So saying that about Poe is a little jaded and doesn't make any sense to me. You have to take that with a grain of salt. I think that's just again another person's opinion. That just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't think there's 30 some odd better defensive tackles than Poe in the NFL. So that I've seen that argument been brought up, but again, Poe obviously he hasn't been the pass rusher he was his first 2 years in the league, obviously grabbing 2 double-digit sack seasons, but he's still really good against the run. I really do believe he's really what put on the tape of him going against the Cowboys, putting on a tape of this last past season against whatever you want, the Raiders, who have an outstanding offensive line. He put on tape there. He does a really good job at stopping the run, and he made one of the most menacing front sevens in the NFL the past 5 years on the Kansas City Chiefs, and he was one of the biggest proponents. He was one of the biggest reasons that front seven was so scary. And if he could come in on a one-year prove-it deal, I think he can make our front seven even more dangerous. Excuse me, and I really do think that would be a good idea. I would have no problem with that. But I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't think. I think he probably will settle for whoever gives him the most money, and I don't think we're going to do that, especially with our offseason philosophy so far. It really doesn't seem like that's the kind of game we're going to play there. But if he did come in on a one-year prove-it deal, then I think that would be a good idea. I really do, because it's just 1 year. It's 1 year. It's not no long-term contract. It gets huge cap hits and stuff like that. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. This was an interesting news lineup here. I really want to know what you guys feel about how you guys feel about Koa and definitely Koa in the guard situation, if you're mad about it or not. I think those are the two big. I'm sick of hearing about Poe. I think Poe's a great player, and if he could come in on a one-year deal, that'd be great. So that's gonna be it, guys. I am Skax83, and I'll see you guys in the next one.